Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Changing Tides podcast. In each episode, we invite guests to have honest conversations about their mental health journeys with the goal of destigmatizing mental health within the Asian American Pacific Islander community. Due to the nature of the podcast, we'll be discussing a variety of mental health topics and possibly triggering experiences. While we and the majority of our guests are not trained professionals, we encourage you to practice self-care while listening and seek professional guidance if you or a loved one is in need of support. With that said, let's start the episode.
Hello, my name is Emily Peng, and I describe my mental health journey as a journey with 1,000 steps.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Changing Tides podcast. I am your host, Matthew Yonemura. Thank you so much for tuning in to the podcast and supporting us. We've had some really great interviews since we started this thing. I can't believe we're 56 episodes in. I just am so grateful for the continued support of listeners, but also the continued support of Changing Tides and LTSC for allowing me to still do this. I just wrapped up the interview from this episode, and I came into this episode planning on discussing, some of the topics of just, what I'm seeing in the world and what I'm seeing on my social media feed. And this person really gave me a lot of hope for, the next generation and the young leaders of tomorrow and, the young leaders of today, because I don't think when I was in college I would have the guts that these college protesters, these peaceful protesters, have in their support of Palestine. I just think it's so amazing how across the country these young people are, putting their lives, their lives on the line, and their academic standing and their grades, and they're putting so much at risk for something so much bigger than them. And I don't know if I don't think I would have had the guts to do what these people are doing. And I think it's amazing. I think I've always been someone who was comfortable posting on social media about the stuff that I care about. But, putting myself out there and putting myself on the line like that, I just don't think I had the guts to do when it came to like BLM protests when I was in college. And that's evident that a lot of people my age didn't even think of doing peaceful protests the way that this generation of college students are now. And I think it's evident because there weren't really college campus encampments in support of causes when I was in college. I think this is something that's new because this new generation is so strong. And I'm just amazed to see some of these college students stand in solidarity for something much bigger than them. And I've had a lot of anxiety over these last few days, the last week maybe. For one, it was because of the Lakers. That caused me a lot of anxiety, to be honest. But I think I also have a lot of anxiety because it feels at times like there's no hope for the future when it comes to the climate crisis, when it comes to how horrible our colleges, our businesses, and our government are treating the Palestinian people and the Palestinian land. And it could feel so doom or gloom these days. But one other thing I want to say is that the opinions that I express in the intro and outro are completely of my own. I am not endorsed by Changing Tides or LTSC in what I'm saying here. These are just the things on my mind that I'm sharing. So do not come for Changing Tides or LTSC if you have an issue with anything I'm saying. I say this all to say that my guest today really inspires me. And I think it's so powerful that these young people just have the guts to say, here's an issue, let's address it. And I hope that people my age, I hope people older than me, and I hope other young people have the same audacity to just go for it. So today's guest is another change maker, a leader that I'm really inspired by. They are a high schooler who created the nonprofit program Diversity in Us. They're located in Northern California, and I'm so glad that we have the chance to sit down and discuss the work that they do and their journey. And you can go ahead and listen to this interview that I had with Emily Peng. Emily, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I was grateful to see when you reached out, and we were talking right before we were recording this. But I'm really excited to work with your group and learn more about your efforts and how we can work with together. But I want to be able to introduce you to our audience listening in. And I just want to start by why you described your journey as a journey of 1,000 steps.
All right. So basically, my mental health journey was described that way because it's been spontaneous. Because obviously, one's mental health is not always going to be stable, and obviously, it changes. Your mental health changes based on the different experiences that you have. And basically, I had a really long journey to discovering myself, my identity, as a teenager. And along the way, because I got to work with a lot of different people, at school, in my organization, and also that I was able to discuss with wonderful organizations such as Changing Tides, I was able to really gain new experiences, and that positively affected my mental health. So that these experiences really helped me develop my character, and honestly, not everything is always positive though, because there's also dark people experience dark times. Like for example, there are hate and there are stereotypes in this world that, as a founder of Diversity in Us, I need to understand in order to create a solution and connect with other youth. So in the process of understanding this, I really saw kind of the darkness in the world, and that's just really critical to understanding the solution to change. And also, of course, COVID-19 really impacted me because we were all in front of screens, and obviously affected my mental health. And also, as an Asian American, I experienced a lot of discrimination. And as a teenager, struggling with a lot of things at school and also experiencing discrimination. Obviously, it's difficult, but I'm really grateful to have a lot of positivity in my life and all the support that came from other organizations that Diversity in Us has worked with, that really helped me develop a lot of confidence in myself, and that really helped me have better mental health.
Yeah, thank you so much for your response. I think it's so interesting because you're a sophomore in high school, right?
Yes.
So I don't think politics or worldly matters really were on my radar until my senior year of high school, because that's when um, Donald Trump was elected. So for me, I was, I think I had just turned 18, and that's when I was kind of aware of politics and more aware of how widespread racism is in America. But for you, you're a sophomore and you've done work before you were a sophomore. So I guess in your journey, how old were you, or what grade were you in when you were kind of aware of this hate and this racism that we experience?
So basically, well, I was kind of aware of this issue partially because of the COVID-19 pandemic when I was a sixth grader. So basically, one day I was on the bus, and then a bunch of kids in the back were whispering and pointing at me and saying that I was the COVID virus. And I was just a sixth grader back then. I was like, why are people hating on me because of the color of my skin? And I mean, throughout middle school, high school, I've experienced a lot of racial discrimination. People have kind of like thrown stereotypes at me, and I've always been on this constant journey to kind of face these things that have tried to destroy my mental health. I would say probably since 2019 when I was a sixth grader.
That's so crazy to me. That blows my mind. I was 2019, I was a sophomore and junior in college, and that's just so wild how early you had to experience this. And I feel so horrible for all of you young people who are still in school, who had to experience COVID and Asian hate at such a young age. So when did you realize that, this was mental health? Like like were you always aware of it, or were you just kind of like, oh, they're bullying me, this is mean, and it's kind of surface level. But when would you say like you were aware of what mental health is?
So basically, I would say like my school like did a presentation on mental health. Like they do it like every year for a lot of the students, and it's like a mandatory assembly. But basically I didn't really grasp the concept of racism or what mental health was until high school, because I feel like I mean kids are usually very naive, and I was very naive in middle school. I had no idea what this was, but these things were being thrown at me. And eventually through my like ethnic studies class, I learned about all these stereotypes, hate, and like mental health. And also like I went through like health education in freshman year of high school, and I through these experiences I kind of was able to grasp upon like the concept of racism, and also why it's important to take care of yourself, and also gender identity, sexuality, etc.
So between, your high school assembly, when you were kind of given these concepts and, they were described to you, from sixth grade to that realization, like how would you describe that feeling of this hate or this racism, and how would you discuss it, or were you like how would you discuss it if you did?
So basically, in sixth grade, I had no idea what this was, and honestly, it just really confused me a lot, and I didn't know what it. So that's what I'm saying. If you really want to be able to understand a concept and try to do something about it, you need to learn about the darkness, about the hate, about all that. So if you don't learn about it like I did in sixth grade, like you have really no idea what it was, and just balls up inside of you, and you're just like, what is happening?
Hmm. So it's been a long time since I was in high school. Um, I don't know how, I mean, I said it already that I was in college in 2019. I graduated high school in 2017, so it's been a long time for me. And when I was in high school, people didn't really talk about mental health, and what like senior year we did discuss like discrimination, but only as far as Donald Trump went, and building the wall. That was kind of as in depth that we went when it came to talking about race and politics, and mental health was hardly discussed. And if it was, then it was discussed as a joke. So in your experience, like what's it like discussing mental health and having productive conversations around the political landscape for you and your peers in your high school experience?
Okay, so first of all, I don't think you're missing out on much on like the high school experience nowadays. I mean, I would say it's nothing like the movies, and honestly, yeah, I think it's just except if you're like interested in the rallies and all that, like all those prom dances, then but other than that, you're not really missing out on much to the high school experience. But basically, like as a high school student, although like our school, like I'm very lucky to have a school that is very diverse and the staff is very supportive. I noticed that a lot of youth are not usually very open to discussing mental health, and especially in very academically rigorous schools, it's not discussed often. And I feel like there is a lack of empathy like among my peers. It's and I always hear, like for example, I always hear like a bunch of stereotypes and discrimination, like just like very subtle, like just these things being thrown out randomly. And that's just because that's rooted in a lot of ignorance. And that's why like it's difficult to empathize with my peers, because I feel like it's hard to have empathy with like for them, and they don't really have empathy for me in a way, because also there's a lot of AAP on mental health stigma. So all of these things really kind of break like my classmates apart. And I feel like yeah, there's like a lack of empathy, and there's like a lot of discrimination that's rooted in ignorance and hate from my classmates. And mental
Hmm.
health isn't really something that's discussed, and that's kind of a problem, because Gen Z are like especially Gen Z and Gen Alpha are the backbone to our society. And like even if we have that reputation, like even if we have that kind of incentive to do something for society, we still have an infamous reputation we're being addicted to our phones. And but even if there's like social media and stuff that's kind of harmful, we still need to build empathy. And because we have to kind of push for change in society, we have to have more empathy, have to discuss these things and do something rather than just sitting there in ignorance. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why it's important to have conversations about these things, about gender identity, mental health, and connecting with youth.
Mm-hmm. That's why I'm really excited to discuss, the nonprofit program that you're starting. But just to give context, my high school experience, yeah, I'm not missing it. I'm glad to be missing out on it right now. I imagine it just sounds like the way people type on TikTok comments, and it's kind of scary. I actually went to do a tabling event at a high school recently because we were invited to hand out like our mental health resources to this high school campus, and I was looking around and just like thinking about like, oh, these are the people that are leaving comments on TikTok, and these are the kids who are always beating me in Fortnite still. And yeah, it was a lot to consider that that's the demographic and what it's like. And I was reminded of how cringeworthy I probably was in high school. When it came to the rallies, I was the kid in the front of the whole like my whole like class student section, like in the tutu and the like body paint and like trying to hype everyone up because so yeah, yeah, a lot changes after high school. So I hope you are enjoy the time you still have, but I look forward to the time after as well. But tying it back to your experience and what you're seeing amongst your peers, I really want to shed light on diversity in us. Could you share what led you to create it and what diversity in us is?
All right. So basically, Diversity in Us is a youth led nonprofit organization which strives to educate communities on the harms of stereotypes and empower youth to pursue underrepresented careers. So it is entirely run by high school students, basically. Like, I have a team of 10 directors in my youth board who all work together towards the same mission. And it's really beautiful because, like, we're a bunch of youth who want to see change in the world. And we're working together and working with other youth to make the change. And yeah, our events are suited for youth. We're trying to target youth and solve this problem that is present in the community, specifically like high schools and middle schools. So our youth executive board works with chapter leaders. Like, chapter leaders are basically middle schoolers and high schoolers who start chapters in their schools and host events that are related to diversity in us. So we work together with the chapter leaders to kind of create impact. And that is the way we do that because, like, chapter leaders, like, they can be like spread out across the whole country. That's really efficient because we can make a lot of impact through other people's impact. That's why youth, they really have a lot of potential. And I think that, I have faith in Gen Z and Gen Alpha because although a lot of people don't have faith in them, I think they do have the potential to make a lot of change. But basically, getting on to the main point, basically we host primarily speaker series events, and basically in our speaker series events, one part of it is a lesson plan which breaks down the harms of stereotypes. We pull out the harms of them and where they came from and why it's harmful to society. And the second part is usually includes an activity, a hands-on activity for the participants to do, to engage with speakers. It's more like a craft activity. Sometimes we do a community mural with the school, and then also the speakers that we invite around. Like, we invite around 5 speakers every event. They are specifically from the underrepresented career field that we address. For example, for African Americans in government and STEM, that's one of the speaker series events that we offer. We invite African Americans from government and STEM career fields, and they talk about their experience in their career field. And in this way, we create positive role models which positively influence students. And that is kind of the way our main speaker series event works. And basically why I kind of initiated this project was because, okay, first of all, because I participated at this summer internship in the Bay Area. It's called A Amplify, and basically it kind of taught us about the harms of stereotypes specifically towards the API community. I learned about discrimination, about the history of Asian Americans, and about API leadership and mental health. So basically, I that kind of gave me the tools to create like a project because we had to do a capstone project at the end of the internship. And basically I worked with the group to create a project that addresses a specific problem in the API community. And I kind of thought about the problems that were in the API community, like when we were thinking about the project ideas. And there were a lot of ideas, such as like API like housing, and there was another one like API hate. But I feel like a lot of other organizations had already addressed these problems. So I want to think of something new and creative. So I thought about it for a little bit, and I was like, wait, there's not enough representation in API in America's like government and systems and stuff. So basically, I created a project with my group. I initiated, I brought up the issue, and we created a capstone project, which was the speaker series. And then basically, after the internship, I developed it more, and then I turned it into a nonprofit organization. But the second reason why I created this because I personally experienced a lot of stereotypes and discrimination in my school. So, for example, in PE class, so normally all the boys play the sports like during PE class, and I decided to play the sports with them one day because I just felt like it. So then when I played with them, I was the only girl in that in like the sports team, and then like some random like guys like just said that we should disregard women's rights and that women's rights don't matter and that they have never seen a woman in government. And that really angered me because that's like rooted in ignorance. And again, it's like, how can we have discussions on mental health when a lot of youth are ignorant about a lot of issues? And also, I remember in one of my classes, so there's another guy that said, oh, you must get 100% on every single test because you're Asian. And that just, but like, how can you assume someone because of the color of their skin? And so I got so angry, and I literally channeled all that anger towards creating this organization because I wanted to really create a solution for this issue. I didn't want another person to experience the same thing that I did. So I basically worked with my co-founder, like one of my friends, to create this project. And yeah, we worked on this project over the course of like the whole school year, like 9 months. And we kind of developed this idea. And basically, we kind of like talked about how like a lot of youth think that racism is gone because it's not the civil rights era anymore, but it's actually mellowed down into stereotypes and like subtle microaggressions in schools. And also in our systems, like in our government, there's not enough representation. There's like systemic oppression. Those are all problems. And people didn't really see that. So I feel like there need to be some like solution. And basically, yeah, I just really wanted to build empathy in my school. And also, underprivileged communities don't always have access to resources and good role models. Like I remember in English class, I saw this documentary one day, and basically it was about how African American youth don't have a lot of resources to succeed academically, and a lot of their family members are involved in like drugs and a lot of gang violence, and they don't really have the resources to like pursue their dreams. And that's also like a problem. And also, I last thing is also like I worked with Aragon High School, my high school, on a campus climate survey where we kind of like had a survey to all the students, and basically like we had questions on like how many times you hear like dehumanizing language on campus, and it was pretty disturbing. Like around like 43% of students like heard like dehumanizing language on campus at least once in the past 1 to 3 months. This is absolutely an equity problem as well.
So, Emily, there's so much for me to respond to. And I think one thing that I really like connected and attached to was how you turned your anger and your frustration into creating diversity in us. And I, I'm curious about now that you've created this program and you've built your team out. How do you try to keep your passion for this, even if, things don't go well? Because, you channeled this from anger and from passion. So how do you not just get discouraged when things don't always go in the right direction? And, you know, how do you keep a level head as you keep going forward?
I think every single founder or executive director of like a business or nonprofit could probably understand the stress that comes with creating an organization. And honestly, yeah, not everything just comes to me and not everything is successful for me and my team. And I just try my best to push through. And in those difficult moments, I always remember that my team is there for me and that they've always believed in me. And I've always had my organization goal in mind to impact more youth. And I always also think about my role models, those individuals who push past stereotypes and really challenge a lot of society's problems. And basically, I'm very, very grateful to have a lot of directors in my team, like 10 directors who work towards the same mission, and they all have amazing teamwork skills so they can work with me on my events and do all the challenges. They're there for me, and we're just all like 10 teenagers who want to see more empowerment in youth in this world.
Um, Forgive me, I should know this. Are you considered Gen Alpha or Gen Z?
I'm considered Gen Z.
Okay, what do you think I am? I'm just curious.
Okay, I don't want to seem rude. So, okay, are you a millennial?
Luckily, I'm not. I don't have millennial cringe just yet. I feel like I'm about to get there, but I'm actually considered Gen Z, which is crazy.
Wow.
But yeah,
Okay.
okay. I just wanted to check. But yes, I'm technically considered Gen Z still. I'm like 2 years away from it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
I know. I'm grateful that you include me in the voices of the future, even though I'm nearing being considered old. Um, so I guess like how were you able to find, your other um collaborators to create diversity in us? And then how did you also like how do you recruit these chapter leaders who are at different schools and they're like in different parts of the state? Like how did you expand your team?
So basically, this project really started out with me and my co-founder. So my co-founder was like one of my friends who was also really interested in social justice. We were the only ones who kind of started this project. We kind of had to use several months to develop the idea for this project. And basically, as we developed it, we needed more help. So then I basically like talked to more people, like looked at who was actually interested in social justice in my school. So obviously I had some friends who were also like interested in community work and social justice work. And then I asked two of my other friends to join. So that was a team of four. And then we worked for around 7 months to develop the first event with the four members of my team. And then after that, kind of gained some success in that. And then we created a youth board application, which allowed us to grow our team to 10 directors. And what we did, like what my team did, was that we basically, it sounds like a lot, but we literally researched on all the Bay Area cities and we went to every single school. We found the career director for every single school. We did this one by one by hand, no AI. And we basically like emailed all of them one by one and then they sent it to their students. So we use the power of social media and email in a way to kind of recruit people. And same for chapter leaders, one by one in every single California city. We emailed the career and college counseling directors and they send it out to their students. But obviously, not everyone's going to respond. So for every 200 emails we send, we only get 2 to 3 responses. But still, that's an impact.
Hmm. Yeah, we experienced something very similar where you just put together the list and you have to put in the time and send the emails. And I commend you for having the patience to do that as a high schooler who, I'm going to be honest with you. I think high school is a lot harder than college. And like your workload is crazy, and the fact that you guys put in all this time is pretty amazing because like I get paid to do these emails, and you guys are just taking the initiative to do it. So big kudos to all of you. I think it's amazing. So you just cold called and sent these emails, and you've built out this team. And how has the response been to the speaker panels you put on, the workshops, the efforts that you've made? What has been the response that you guys have gotten as you continue to do your work?
We've gotten a lot of positive responses, and I'm really grateful for that. So recently, the Daly City Mayor, so Mayor Milano, she recognized our organization with the certificate, and also my high school's principal also recognized us, and also because of the work that my organization has done in Aragon High School, the Daly City Mayor also gave our school a certificate for like their acceptance of more social justice work to come into the school. And I've also had the opportunity to go on some podcasts, and also my team has been featured on our school's newspaper and video news. And also with our event speakers, I've been able to network with them and understand their experiences. And these things, have been an amazing process, to be able to understand like the speaker stories and stuff. So I've been able to talk to San Mateo's former mayor, a San Mateo like judge, and also, of course, the Daly City mayor. And these people spoke at our event, so obviously that was great. But also at our next event, which will be happening in San Francisco next week, so our team will be able to network with the California State Secretary, like a Richmond council member, and the founder of an Oakland-based lawyer who met with President Obama, and more attorneys, and yeah, so other speakers. And yeah, I'm really glad that I'm able to chat with you also and have this conversation. I really enjoy networking with different organizations and just learning more about, how can we advance our mission, how to connect youth.
Hmm.
And yeah, so I'm really motivated to also keep on pushing forward and try to reach more people, partially also because my team is super encouraging and we push forward together. And yeah, I think that, I believe in our younger generations.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. How do you balance it all? Or like how do you not get burnt out? Or how do you like I guess what do you do to keep yourself um at peace? Like what are your hobbies, or um how do you if you've had a bad day when it comes to either school and or diversity in us, like what do you seek to make yourself feel better? So yeah, like what do you do to take care of yourself?
I would say so. First thing is that basically, if I get stressed out with my schoolwork or with diversity in us, I always try to think about my team because there are people who have faith in me, and basically, also having my organization goal in mind, that kind of motivates me. It's just thinking that there's always a solution. That there's nothing is really impossible. It's just like if you fail, you really just understand that that's a way that doesn't work. So I always try to be optimistic about things. And honestly, like with experience from all these failures, you know, I've really developed that resilience. And I think that for anybody that tries to make change, they need to have resilience. And having that resilience makes you really tough. So then you can push through difficult times. But also, so basically, things that I do to kind of like reduce the stress that I have would be like I like playing the cello. So I play for my school's orchestra. I think that is something that really improves one's mental health because I feel like music is something that everyone can understand. And I think that's really beautiful because, we see all the hate and all the things that need to change, all these issues in the world, but music is something that, is completely innocent in a way. It's beautiful. There's no kind of politics in that. And yeah, other than that, I also like having social gatherings with my team. I like reading, and I think also spending time with my family. I think those things really help me.
So I love all that. I think that's all really great. But I need a second of another piece of honesty from you. Is there anything that's not productive? Like, is there anything that you do that's like, I need to goof off. I need to watch or binge a show. Like, because you sound like a superhuman high schooler. So like, what do you do that's not super productive?
So what do you mean by super unproductive? I personally I don't use social media so
Okay.
because I know it's harmful and I know that with my experience with social media it's really harmed my mental health. I'm not
Yeah.
saying it's bad, but for me
For
personally, like
you, yeah.
I don't use social media because it's not good for me and yeah, but what do you mean by unproductive?
Do you ever sit down and couch rot, or do you love a certain TV show? Do you play video games? Like, do you go to the movies? Is there anything that you do that's not, I guess not productive? Because I think those things are good to do if that's what your mind or your body are asking for. But yeah, like, is there anything that's like you just need to take a step back and be a couch potato or anything like that?
Well, I guess everyone likes sleeping.
Yeah, very true. If you're able to get sleep, then that's definitely good. Yeah, because it sounds like you don't sleep from how much work you're doing. Um, so Emily, we're towards the end of the questions I have. And then I have some more sillier questions to ask you. But like, what's the future goals that you have for Diversity in Us? But what's on your radar? What events do you guys have coming up? And then just bigger goals that you guys might have.
So basically, yeah, so we're basically hosting another event in a middle school in San Francisco. We're hosting that next Friday, and that's something that our team has been working on. And over the summer, we're probably going to work with an organization in Oakland to kind of impact the East Bay more so we can kind of really focus on impacting California. And we're probably going to work with the organization in Oakland to host an event with the Oakland youth. And obviously, other than that, is recruiting chapter leaders. And my goal for my organization by the end of 2024 is to have 5 different states with chapter leaders.
Wow.
So, like across the country, 5 different states with chapter leaders. And honestly, I think we can achieve that because we already have one state already. So, California, we already have like a few chapter leaders, which is good. And yeah, so I plan my goals on a year-to-year basis. So, as we progress, I plan more goals for my organization, and I work my team on that.
That's awesome. Is there anything about Diversity in Us or about your journey or anything else that you'd like to say before I get to the what I call the quick fire round? You don't have to be like super quick in your response, but is there anything else you'd like to say?
Okay, so do you want me to say anything specifically? Like, what is the purpose of this? Like, do you want me to inspire people or what? Like,
If
what do
you'd
you
like
want?
to, if you'd like to give words of inspiration, go ahead. If there's anything I didn't ask you about in regard to the work that you do, you could talk about that. Anything. Like if there's nothing you want to say, that's fine too.
Yeah, I would say I think that we really need all youth to join in this mission. That's in the mission of addressing a lot of social issues. I think that I really encourage youth to step up to the problem. And the only way we're going to be able to do this is build empathy. And that's also the only way we're going to encourage more discussions on mental health. So I do really encourage other youth to get involved with your organization and also Diversity in Us because our organization is really focused on empowering youth.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much. Um in the intro of this episode, I meander a little bit and I just discuss about what's going on in that I'm seeing in mental health and what's going on in the world. And I think it's really inspiring to hear that you're doing the work that you do because, I think it's unfortunate that, so much of your school experience was robbed from you by COVID when you had to go virtual. And, at a younger age, people were meaner and more discriminatory than what I experienced. So I'm so grateful that you turn this into something productive, and I'm really excited to see what you guys have in store next. But that's great, and I have some other silly questions that I'd like to ask you if you're all ready for them. You good?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
cool. So the first one is if you could invite three people to dinner, dead or alive, who would they be?
Okay, I would probably invite Kamala Harris, Anne Frank, and I also invite Joe Biden.
Very interesting. Is there you mentioned you like reading. Is there some book that you're reading that you'd recommend or a book in the past like that you read prior that you would recommend or a TV show?
Yeah. So I read like books with like a lot of variety. So basically, I'm currently reading The Hobbit from the Lord of the Rings,
Hmm.
and sometimes I also read books on like how to deal with people and also like nonviolent communications because I need to know those things. But it's also interesting to learn about those kind of topics. But I also read a lot of other books on like Asian American like mental health. Like there's this book called Yoke, and it's like about basically like Korean American sisters, and they both deal with a lot of mental health issues. And I really want to learn more about different experiences and a lot of these social issues. So I read a lot of different books basically.
Hmm. I'm sure you've read more books in your lifetime than I have in mine, so good for
Yeah.
you. Um, After a long day of diversity in us in school, how do you best prefer to decompress? What's like the one thing that you're hoping to do after a long day?
I feel like is it okay to say that I don't really have any time to decompress every day?
That is
I don't
okay.
really have a lot of time to do that.
So, do you have prioritize just to get some sleep then?
I usually work until I really have to go to sleep. Like actually,
That's the grind of high
which is
school.
probably really bad. I don't really encourage anyone to do that. With and this is really not like I wouldn't encourage anyone to do that,
Yeah.
obviously. But yeah,
I think I could kind of relate when I was in high school as well. It's a lot of work, but I think it sounds like you have a lot of pride in what you do, and I think that's great. So keep at it, but also hopefully get some rest. And you could always reach out to Changing Tides if you need some other outlets.
okay.
Um, so two more. Does a straw have one hole or two?
Is this a trick question?
I'm just curious what you think.
Oh, that's really tricky. I'm just trying to think if this has to do anything with math or something. Like
I think it's
figure.
just how you interpret it, what you think of when you see a straw, if it has one or two.
I think it has two holes.
Okay. Interesting. And then finally, if you were to have an autobiography, what would you title it?
Okay, this is pretty hard because I don't want to sound like a narcissist or anything.
It's it's fine.
Wait, what would you title yours? Let me think about that.
I think when I answered this question, I said I would title it Listen, Learn, Grow, because I feel like I've done a lot of those things throughout my life. Listen, learn, and grow. I think that's what my response was. But yeah,
Okay. I think I would go for like okay. Youth. Okay. This is really hard because I never really thought about that. Like
it is hard.
that's a pretty random question. Okay. I would say like probably like young like I would say like youth for diversifying the underrepresented careers, I guess. I haven't really thought about that question.
I
It's hard to think
understand.
about.
It's a hard one. So that's not like copyright or anything. Like you could always change it if you were to have autobiography down the road. So don't worry. It's not set in stone. But Emily, thank you so much for taking the time out of your clearly very busy schedule. I hope you get some rest. I mean, I know you have school the next 2 days, but maybe you get rest over the weekend, please. And I look forward to the different ways that we'll be working together with your organization and with Changing Tides. So, yeah, looking forward to it.
Okay, thank you so much, Matthew. I really enjoyed the podcast.
Great. Thank you so much, Emily, for taking the time to talk with me about diversity in us, about the experiences that she had in both middle school and high school. And I'm really excited to see what she has in store next and what other young people like her has. It's kind of funny that we're both considered Gen Z. I'm at the very top end of the age range of Gen Z, and I hope to be more like Emily and the others like her. So really powerful, and I'm sorry for the intro to this episode being a little bit more of me talking and not going straight to the interview, but I had some stuff to say because it's been pretty horrible to see this genocide occur, and to see our government, people in our government support it. So I'm really honored to speak to these young people that are making change, and I'm inspired by the people I see on social media at these peaceful encampments in support of Gaza and the Palestinian people. So yeah, as easy as it is to feel doom or gloom, it's also easy to see inspiration all around. So with all that said, if you enjoyed this episode, you can subscribe to our show for episodes releasing every other Tuesday, and give us a rating or a review on your favorite podcast platform. And if you would like to support the podcast and help us grow, you can do so with a donation to the link at the bottom of the episode description. To hear more about Changing Tides, follow us on Instagram at LTSC_Changing Tides, or check out our website, thechangingtides.org. Let's continue to change the tide on mental health.